The genre that we were in when we were exiting was like almost like edging in on new age stuff.
So that's what I was gonna say.
Kind of like just weird stuff. If I thought there was a God, how would I choose between all of them? Well, then with that logic, then where is it God then? Like when do you experience him then with that logic?
Well, you don't experience him through feeling.
Because if you go full Jesus on everything, you're kind of just like a slave to being good, and there's no you to be had.
All right.
Okay, I'm here.
How's it going, man?
Good.
Good. It's like we've been hanging out for the last, I don't know, 3 hours.
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows, you probably don't watch my podcast, but people that did watch it, I have read these books. Hold my water bottle. Last time I was at my buddy's house, and I had a bunch of books behind us. Well, they were just sitting there. And I hadn't read any of them. Yeah. And so I decided, like you and I talked about the other day, I'm going to put some books that I
that you have read.
So some books right there. This guy. This is I don't know if I told you about this. The devotional that I got for Christmas.
Oh, it looks
from
cool.
my sister-in-law.
I like
it's pretty dope. That's my biggest like Christian podcast inspiration is the guy who made that. His name's Jerusalem. Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
I love some stuff with good artwork.
Yeah. No, it's super super good. If it wasn't the foundation of that was holding these two things up, I would give it. Well, maybe I can. Let's see. It's probably gonna. You can look at it a little better if you want to.
That is cool looking.
I'll introduce my guest today, real fast. Jade and I have known each other for.
Let's put it in there.
How long? Has it been over a year?
It's almost it's a year because I think I just got like one of those pieces of paper that was like, you've been here a year or something. Yeah. So it's been about a year.
I think technically, we met while I was working at Pure Bean.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember, but I think we like recognized each other's face.
Yeah, I think because I used to come and sit at the bar all the time there. So yeah.
I didn't really know anything about you at the time. I just knew you were a friend of a friend. Yeah. And then you started working at Shields, which is where I work. Well, we both work now, but where I work full time now. And then all of a sudden he was working there too. Mm-hmm. He's part time, working there, and the rest is history, I guess. Yeah. But so the reason, and I won't take too much time from your story, but the reason that I thought Jade would be a good guest is because Jade's worldview is different than mine. So when we first like met, the way that you train together at the place that I work is like you shadow. We sell shoes, and so Jade and I were shadowing, and so there's a lot of time where you just have like dead time to just kind of talk, and so we were kind of talking about whatever. I think I threw out, I'm pretty open about my faith. I try to be as open as possible. And so I was just throwing out the word, God, and I'm a Christian, da-da-da-da. And I think I kind of assumed that you were a Christian right off the bat.
Yeah, most people do.
Yeah, well, I think just because of your friend group, primarily is Christian.
I knew one guy once who was like, man, I'm Christian and you're more Christian than me.
Yeah. Well, that's super interesting too. Like, I think that's kind of a cultural shift that's happening right now, where people don't want the true religion part of it, but they want the lifestyle.
The
like
stuff
the what am I looking for here? The almost like the life, the things that you do as a Christian, but without the church part, which is understandable. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah. So anyway, we were talking and stuff, and I think I even said something along the lines of like, well, are you, I assume you're, and then you were like, yeah, actually, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what? That's crazy. And then I don't remember where our conversation went from there, but I think it was something along the lines of like,
just like what you think. And
and
what are you again?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a Christian.
But what's the
like denomination?
Yeah. What's the exact
I think I throw out the word charismatic, but I also use the word reformed kind of too. So what's kind of like popular now, and I say popular, I think it's probably more biblical than anything. But probably in 50 years, people will say, "Oh, that was heretical back then." The Christian doctrine change up between like centuries and stuff is just kind of nuts. And I'm saying that as somebody who isn't like a historian or anything.
Yeah,
but
that's it fractals out really quickly.
It does, yeah. The core seems to stay the same.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, the essentials. Jesus was God. Jesus did die for our sins, so on and so forth. But anyway, so where I'm at, I would say I am I would say I'm a reformed leaning charismatic. So what I believe is the spiritual gifts exist today. But I also believe in what we call predestination. You and I have talked about that a little bit before.
Yeah.
Predestination is the idea that Jesus or God, both, whatever, looked at the foundation of time and reality and did choose people to be saved. We don't really know why he chose some and chose others, but that seems to be what the Bible articulates.
Yeah.
I'm not going to die on that hill, though. Like if some incredible theologian and historian looked me in the face and said, this is why, and give a perfect argument for why predestination was false. And there's a lot of people that I follow that would disagree with the predestination thing. Then I'm fine with that. Like it's not a hill I'm going to die on. But as of right now, I'm like, it seems like it's a biblical concept. Like Paul, the Apostle Paul, St. Paul, was pretty adamant about that. That's kind of where a lot of Christians get the predestination thing. So as of right now, it's kind of where I land. And there's more things that make somebody reformed, like sola scriptura. So like the 5 solas that came out of the Reformation. Sola scriptura is one of them. So scripture alone is what you use to build your worldview, your framework for God. And so like that's what I always point back to. That's not to say I never use extra biblical sources like Ruslan or Christian history or whatever. But that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah.
So sorry, that was kind of a long, drawn-out explanation.
Okay, no, it gives me a little clearer idea. But I've had a lot of, all my friends are Christian. Yeah. Or most of them, I guess to say. And I think that's a byproduct of just like probably the area we're in too, you know?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like, even if you're not like into it, you know?
You go to church.
Yeah, you go to church and But I also think that like, I like people who like philosophical things. Yes. You know? So like that just on average is just going to be a Christian here kind of thing, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I've told this to people before. If somehow you're listening to this and you don't know me or Jade, we live in Rapid City, South Dakota. And I almost feel like we live in sort of a Bible Belt part of the way. I'm sure of the Midwest.
It's
almost.
The Midwest Bible Belt,
because everybody you know, for the most part, either A, has church experience and has done the church thing and like you have decided, nope, I'm good, or B, goes to church on the regular and it's just something they do. Yeah,
it's just like everyone's doing it.
It's everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
And it's just what you do. I was going to say something about that too.
It is an interesting segue of like, once you're not in the in-group, the way people kind of like perceive you and stuff is also, that's an interesting thing.
Okay, elaborate on that. Yeah.
So that would, like not being a Christian and being, I'd say I'm not a Christian in a like kind of like firm way. It's not like it's just like, it's just not for me. You know, it's like I have a bunch of thoughts in that genre and it's led me to not be a Christian. Yeah. You know, but like, so usually when you say like, okay, I'm not a Christian, kind of people instantly, you're like, in a lot of people's heads, it's like instantly, okay, well, you just probably believe a bunch of bullshit or something. Sure. Like, can I cuss on here?
It's fine.
Okay. Yeah. But like, there's a lot of like, you get out of a lot of in-groups. And even in like my friend circles, you know, you feel a little bit of like, well, I can't be involved in this very, very inner section because you're not, I fundamentally like don't agree with you on a few things, you know? So it's like, sometimes it'll like limit your depth with people, you know, because they think they either kind of like are a little egotistical of like, well, I know, you know, that you're wrong.
You're saying, okay, so you're saying as a non-Christian looking into the Christian side, like, and for in your case, leaving, this is how you're seeing it?
Just like that, like having a bunch of friends that way, it does kind of, like, it's not an advantageous move to not be a Christian, especially here.
Absolutely. Totally. Yeah. It's, and I think that's one of the biggest issues I have with not just Rapid City in general and kind of what I call, what we just, I feel like dubbed the Bible Belt of the Midwest. But just cultural Christianity of the 21st century, it's extremely judgmental, you know? Yeah. And in some ways, I'm not part of the group that says Christians should never judge. I don't think that's actually biblical. What I do think is biblical is that we should just be kind to people. Yeah. If you have decided that your worldview is if you've decided to depart from the Christian worldview, I disagree with you, and I want you to come back, right? Mm-hmm. But I still love you. I still care about you. I still want to be your friend, right? Yeah. And so I think like, for whatever reason, Christians love to mock, and they love to slander and stuff. And it's like, well, is that what we're supposed to do?
There is, and it's like, I can understand how it's founded, but there's a smudge of, and this is slightly my opinion, it's like, there's a smudge of arrogance in claiming that you actually know the truth.
Sure.
But like if it's coming from me, it's like, if you actually do know the truth, then it's like you're almost warranted a little bit of arrogance in a certain extent, I can see. But also like coming from me, where I kind of have like a viewpoint of like, you almost can never know something to be truly true kind of thing, so like having that arrogance, like I reach a lot of I don't knows, it's like probably in this conversation I'll be like, don't know, don't got an answer. You know what I mean? But like when you really like hold on to something and know something's true, there's a certain amount of arrogance that like comes from that, that I sometimes feel of like when I'm talking with people, it's like in the back of their head, it's like, well, I know you're wrong. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. It's like, I might not know why you're wrong right now, but you're wrong because,
Well,
and they have a huge population of people to back them up too,
Muting that so that it doesn't go crazy during our thing.
Oh, okay.
It's connected to my phone, so like the notifications will go.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I think maybe, and I would maybe disagree that the arrogance is it's not warranted, but it certainly comes as a byproduct of it.
Yeah.
So like you see in the Christian apologetics world right now, something that I love.
Yeah.
You see, and I want to assume the best of a lot of my favorite apologists that are out there, but you do see a level of like of very real arrogance. I have the truth, you don't, which I believe firmly. But on the other hand, it's like it's a slippery slope of how do we present that truth? Do we present it in a way that says you're stupid for not believing this, or do we present it in a way of like, come join the truth,
Yeah.
And I think there's just a balance to be had. Somebody that does a really good job at it is, I'm sure you've seen them, that Cliff and Stuart Connectly on. They have been doing, well, Cliff is the older one. It's a father and son. Cliff has been doing it for years, evangelism since like I think it's been the 80s maybe. And he goes to college campuses and he'll just do like a short, I think like 5-minute gospel presentation, and then he answers questions from these students who are learning. The exact opposite of the things he's teaching in college campuses.
Yeah.
He answers questions sometimes for up to like 4 hours. He'll like dialogue and debate. And sometimes he can come off as maybe a little bit arrogant. Maybe I wouldn't even call it arrogance, but just very, very intense.
Yeah.
But he is, I would say he's extremely humble about it too, which I think is the best way to do it. There's other people out there that I'm like, I don't know if you do it the best. Like there's one apologist who I like. He makes great points. I agree with some of the things he has theologically, but he does kind of make people out to be stupid when they don't agree with him. And I'm like, dude, that's not, in my opinion, that's not how the best way in the 21st century in 2025. I don't think that's the best way to evangelize to people.
For sure. And this is an interesting point that I like to think about is having had a lot of conversations like this with people is you kind of have to you have to be aware of your biologicalness of like, and what I mean is like people, once you get into a debate mode, you're kind of not moving, like once you're in your sympathetic nervous system and you're all kind of jacked up, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like nothing's going to happen. When you're fighting, you know what I mean? It's like, think of any relationship you have. Like when you're like fighting with people, that's usually when nothing happens.
Depends. But I would say in the debate world, most of the time it's unproductive.
Yeah.
I would argue it's most productive for the listener.
Yes.
For the two involved in the debate, it's normally not super productive. But for the listener, I was listening to, there's this guy who I have sort of discovered somewhat recently, called God Logic Apologetics, and his big thing is evangelizing to the Islam community. And it's this, I was watching this 2.5 hour conversation with him and 3 other Muslims, and it's so unproductive.
Yeah.
Like got to a point where I was literally listening to just noise. Like it was just voices yelling at each other.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like, okay, I'm trying to glean something from this.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not even coming after Avery from God Logic, but the conversation itself was just like, this is stupid. Like this is so unproductive. You know?
If the both parties aren't willing to like dance and to like be open, you know, then there's like no point in like, there's no point in talking, really. You know, it's just like making statements isn't talking.
Right. Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, though. If you have the truth, Islam and Christianity both think they have the truth.
Yeah.
How do you, like, there's no wiggle room, right, on pretty much anything. I mean, in Christianity in some ways, but, like, in terms of the core foundations, like, there's zero wiggle room. And then with Islam, it's like the big thing is the Quran is
the word of God.
Is the word of God, period. And everything in it has not been changed, which is just not true, by the way. Yeah. Like the Bible has been changed.
A lot.
Any honest Christians are super open to that and cool with that. With Islam, they, like, you're honest, honest wasn't the right word. You're like super devout, faithful Muslim apologists of today will look you in the eyes, as far as I can tell, the little research I've done. Yeah. Will look you in the eyes and tell you the Quran has never been changed from the 7th century. It's like, no, that doesn't work for any document ever, right? Yeah. I can go on about this. Sorry, I'm getting passionate.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, so did you have anything else you want to say on that topic real fast? Sorry, I didn't want to cut us off.
I'm good.
So then what is your view on religion and God in general?
A review on it in general. Okay. So,
I can elaborate on it.
I will get to it with the story.
Okay, sure. Okay. Do you want to share that story? Yeah, go ahead.
Kind of just like how I got here a little bit.
Okay.
So like when I was young, I was very fundamentalist Christian.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not fundamentalist. Well, a little bit charismatic.
Yeah.
Fundamentalist.
Yes.
I like to call it the word hokey pokey.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Which is a great way to describe that. Yeah. Oh, dude, that side of Christianity it just pisses me off. Like, for the lack of a better, like, it's just a horrible.
Very signs and wonders focused, and where I was kind of in it is, and I mean, due to like kind of where my parents were in it, was like the kind of like the side that's like kind of like, I think people call it like astral projecting almost, of like trying to go to heaven.
Oh,
you
man,
know what I
you
mean?
were
like,
in it deep, man.
Like
Holy
seeing
cow.
angels and like doing stuff like that, and
that's
like
wild.
Yeah, and also to make it even weird, I have weird experiences. Like I've experienced things from like don't know,
sure,
you know what I mean?
Can't explain
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like it was very much kind of deep in that kind of weird, kind of weedy territory.
Yeah.
But I kind of got to a point where I was like, I personally have a very good imagination, and I'm like pretty creative. Okay. So like the way my brain works, like I can kind of just like close my eyes and go in my brain and like, especially with, me, like making stuff, I can like just go in my head and try to figure out how to make something.
Okay.
Like that's just kind of, I'm very like visually orientated and that stuff. So like that was really like kind of took to me, like the whole going places and like that in your like spiritually, whatever that kind of meant, but totally. Like, so I did that a lot. And then I kind of came to the conclusion that like, maybe this is just all in my head, kind of like everything I'm experiencing and seeing when I'm kind of doing this stuff is all kind of based off of like, what sermon I'd heard about it that last week, and
Can
like,
I ask, how old were you when you decided that?
Let's see. I was probably like 13, 14, 12, somewhere. I can't honestly remember. Well, no, 13, somewhere in there. Between 12 and 14, probably, somewhere in there. So I kind of got to this point, and like, I'm obsessive kind of. Yeah. So like, I mean, like I was hardcore into it,
Into
like,
your faith.
Yeah. Okay. And like even, I know I'm young at this point, I'm like a teenager kind of thing. But like different like crazy experiences were like, so like, and my dad was very into this stuff. So like, like.
So that's what I was going to ask. Because you're dad, and I don't want to spoil the story. But was your dad the one that got the ball rolling on your family kind of leaving the faith, or was it more you and then your dad both individually?
I'd say it was mostly my dad.
Okay.
I'd say, if anything, and then just like there's not really like a hierarchy of like leadership of like in my household. It's not like this person makes the decisions and kind of stuff. Sure. So it's just like everyone in my family is very opinionated, and we all just kind of like had opinions, and he kind of started going down this path, and I guess through what he discovered and stuff, and then like me, I was still like, like when you're 14, you're not that much awake. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
right. You're figuring things out.
It's like, so it coincided with me waking up. So like it's definitely like a byprod. It's like it's not 100% like I just wiggle my way out myself. You know what I mean? So like there's definitely environmental factors in there of like like I probably, if say I wasn't like believing it, I probably still would have swayed that way because of him, if that makes sense. Because he is my father. I have a good relationship with him and that stuff. So, but to get back to what I was saying.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail.
So I kind of got to this point where like I decided that I can't really tell if this is just like stuff in my head or nothing. You know what I mean? Like,
nothing in the. What do you mean by that?
Like is this just? I might have said that wrong. Like, is this just like all in my head, or is it real?
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I just said that statement wrong. But
you're good.
And I was like, I kind of came to this conclusion where I'm like, I am all for truth, and I love science and that stuff, and like I'm like I want to know what is true, and I'm like, so I think I was like, if I just kind of let go of everything and things that are real are real, that's kind of like a statement. I also like to use that as kind of like a way to logic through a lot of things. I think there's a lot of things where it's like people really go in circles debating about if something even exists. It's like people don't debate about chemistry. I mean, it's like, they do once it gets really tiny and nuanced and stuff, but it's like no one's debating that sulfuric acid erodes copper.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like nobody, just because it is, you know what I mean? Like it is. There's no like, because it's not in this ethereal realm, So then I get kind of just like, I kind of just decided to just drop a lot of that stuff, and then just kind of to try to make sense of the world myself more, instead of just like listening to someone else's opinion and being like, yeah, that's this guy. I like this guy. You still do a lot of that, but but for like fundamental things, like I'm like, I want my own opinion on this, not like someone else's opinion that I'm subscribing to.
Yeah,
totally. And so like through working through that, I kind of came to like conclusions like that. Like I think the way people talk about the concept of truth is like, to me, I don't think it exists the way people talk about it, like in absolutes. Like I kind of don't think like really, like they're like the most truthful thing I could say is that I know nothing. You know what I mean? Kind of that type of thing where it's like a lot of things are very gray. You can always get like even atoms working the way they work only work in certain ways, because like say like the planet we're on or this existence as a whole, it's like it could not be that way on the somewhere else or something, But
sure. So
it's just like I never kind of think there like is a something really firm. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's not, I'm not like going down the road of like, okay, everything outside of your brain is just perception. I'm not like really going down that rabbit hole. It's like, this is real, and I think you think this is the same thing,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. So that's kind of where.
So are you? But you're not a nihilist.
No.
But you would say that, you just would say we can't know anything.
Yeah, I think it's it's really hard to absolutely know something. And there are a bunch of things, that I have to just like, you have to choose at a certain point, and a lot of things are like 99% working. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like everything in like physical reality, just like it all just kind of works. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't take much faith or belief to just like go to the store and get some groceries or something like that. You know what I mean? But it does take some faith and belief once you get into like religion and stuff like that. Yeah. And so like kind of my viewpoint is like people believe in Bigfoot, people believe in ghosts, Also, like I kind of looked at like, okay, there's a bunch of different religions, right? It's like, well then
hundreds, thousands, I think actually.
Yeah, or thousands. Yeah.
I don't actually know.
And this is even one step further in to this than I've explained yet. But like, how would I if I thought there was a God, right? How would I choose between all of them?
I can help you.
Yeah.
This guy can help you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's just kind of my point. It's like, I really don't like it. Like when people are just like, this is it. This is what it is. It's like, this is the truth. And it's like, and hold on to that. It gives you something. It gives you a lot of benefits. You know what I mean? There are definite positive life benefits to being connected into a good like Christian community kind of thing.
There are. So yeah,
but I just don't think it's true. Kind of thing.
Well, in the sense of like, in Christianity, there is lots of things you can benefit from. You benefit from community. You benefit from having something to hope for. You benefit from having purpose. Those are the very abstract.
I still have purpose.
Sure.
That's an interesting, yeah.
Yeah, now we should get into that.
Yeah.
Because, like, I would say you do too. I just don't know where you root that purpose.
Yeah.
What was I going to say, though? Now, with Christianity, though, and I don't know, maybe aside from Islam and maybe Mormonism too, I don't know of another religion that calls you, again, aside from especially Islam, to... The Christian term is take up your cross and to sacrifice. There is, aside from the things I just mentioned, community, hope for the future, purpose, those sorts of things, I don't see a reason to subscribe to Christianity really at all. Unless, like for me, dude, the reason I am now all in is because I've realized this thing is real, which may drive you crazy that I say that. But I would say, and we can get into other religions too if you want to, because I have a little bit of a view on other religions too. I think the Bible actually kind of, not prophesies, but kind of prophesies them.
Yeah.
There's a passage of scripture we could look at. But where was I going with that? That was going to become full circle. Oh, I don't see a benefit of Christianity unless it's true. I wouldn't be a Christian unless I had the evidence that I would say I have.
Okay, so then I think I would disagree with you there a little bit. I do think even like if it isn't true, I still think it's useful.
But why would you even believe it if you knew it wasn't untrue?
Well, why would you believe it? Well, you couldn't. I mean, you couldn't believe it if you
maybe I'm misunderstanding your point then.
So I'm saying like, even though I don't think like Christianity, some of the things that you believe at the bottom of it are true, I still think it has good byproducts.
Yes.
Or not even byproducts, just products. Like a lot of the things are good that came out of it.
I see what you're saying. Yep.
But like, there's a lot of things that like there's a lot of like moral stuff that was figured out by humans before the Bible that are things that are like just baselines that are in the Bible. Yeah, sure. You know what I'm saying? So like,
it's wrong to kill somebody.
Yeah. So it's like, you can't just be like, well, the ancient Mesopotamians like kind of figured out this thing and that kind of stuck for a while, I think I don't know about this. You'd have to check me, but I think like the saying "do unto others as you'd have them do unto you," that kind of vibe of a saying, I think is like really old.
Could be.
Like, there's like a lot of stuff like that that's like way older than other stuff. It's like we figured out morals way beforehand. It's like they don't necessarily have to be linked to a religion. And I can also see like, I kind of think And I guess, do you believe in like evolution or like,
I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on that right now because
how
there's
old like the world is and stuff like that, I guess. But
so I would assume that your fundamentalist charismatic upbringing would have said evolution is like demonic and evil and ridiculous.
Yeah, a little bit. I was kind of like, my dad does like kind of geology stuff, and I'm kind of into rocks and like science, and like once you get like carbon dating explained to you and you understand some physics and stuff, it's like if it's not, then it was completely designed by God to look exactly this way. You know what I mean? So, which just kind of seems like stupid to me.
Sure.
You know, it's like
that it was designed to
it's
look.
It's like the carbon dating does actually work, but like God designed it in the short term to make it look long term to us or something. You know, like you get into weird arguments like that.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, like, as far as I understand, the evidence for evolution has become a lot more backed up. There's a better word I could be using.
I mean, you look at DNA, it's like most of our DNA is shared with most stuff. Like,
really?
Yeah.
And how so? What do you mean by
that? Like in your DNA, like there's only certain parts of your DNA being used to express you as a human. You know, and that's kind of like individual to you as a human. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think it's like something like 90-ish somewhere in there % of your DNA is just kind of old stuff from all of these crazy old organisms. So you just don't use any of it. Like there's a lot of code in your DNA, and like we can match up DNA with like Neanderthals and stuff like that, and be like, okay, look, we've got this much overlap here. You know, you've heard people say it's like you've got like so much % in common with a banana. You know, like you've heard people say stuff like that. Yeah. But it's like the track record in DNA really points to their being old stuff. But I kind of sidetracked with that whole thing. Good. Where were we going with that again? I
don't remember where the original point was, but I was going to say that I know that, I mean, each human being has their own set of unique DNA, right? Like, maybe it's pulled from other things. Yeah. But and so I think that alone is a pretty strong pointing to something personal, something creating. Maybe I remember you were asking where I land on evolution, I think is where this kind of started. Yeah,
but I can't remember why I asked why I landed. I was going somewhere with that.
I don't know either. Shoot, I'm sorry. Maybe we can.
That's what happens when you get two squirrel braids.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Put an agnostic and a Christian thinker in the room together, and here we are. And you're not agnostic. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep calling you agnostic.
That's the closest word I've got. Yeah.
Let's come back to that just after I say I am cool with evolution. If people come out and say it's for fact, fine, whatever. Yeah. I don't think it takes away from the biblical narrative at all. I think you just make Genesis into poetry.
Remembered where I was going now. Okay, so I can see as humanity evolved, right, that, like I mentioned this earlier when we were at the coffee shop, of like your brain kind of needs an answer to questions, and it's also trying to simplify the world as much as it can.
Yeah.
And so like as you go back in time, probably it was just less and less intelligent as you go further and further back in like human, like evolution kind of thing. So it's like you have like lower and lower resolution truths about the world, And so I can understand where like the idea of like
lower resolutions of the world?
Yeah.
Because
so it's like you're less intelligent. It's like your framework for the world is more chunky
as you move forward in life.
No, I like backwards, like in evolution.
Oh,
like way back in time.
Okay,
If you go back to like,
I was thinking, for whatever reason,
maybe the first thing you'd call a human, he's probably going to be kind of stupid-ish compared to what you think.
Okay.
He's still working on the kind of same logic circuit as you, but he's not. He doesn't have as many variables. He doesn't have as much data or knowledge.
Sure.
So, but like, I can see how we really love to anthropomorphize things.
Yes.
And so it's just like, okay, this happened. There's a bunch of unknown things happening. And so it kind of feels like you're in a story, So it's like you kind of are like, something's doing this to me. Like I can see how you would kind of like generate a god like way back in the day, And then like how that would evolve and how you'd like, if you look at God, like the things that God did kind of thing. Yeah. Like that were just like, oh, that's God. we've explained them away as time has kind of progressed. We can still say like, oh, God is what made those things happen that way. But it's like you don't really call like the table saw that made this God.
Sure.
Because you can completely explain it. But like a Neanderthal might have seen a table saw and been like, this is God or something like that.
I get what you're saying.
You get what I'm kind of saying there with that analogy. So I can kind of see like how God would be generated.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I thought you'd be, where you'd land.
Yeah, so I can kind of see how he would be generated as an idea. And there's definitely an undeniable void where he fits in all of existence.
Yep. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And I would say that void is meant to be filled by the existence of true God. Whereas you would say we filled that, right?
Yeah, we filled
human,
it. Yeah, it's like we need to fill it. You know what I mean? It's like I'm completely chill with not knowing. You know what I mean? But like we just want to know. We want to fill that. I like to use the analogy of like it's the other half of the sine wave. It's like if this is all of reality, like in like trigonometry or whatever, then it's like there has to be a whole other side of the sine wave. Of course. And we probably just have nothing to know about it. Like I kind of like I think whatever that whole is, it's so infinite and so unknowable that like I find it arrogant to be like, actually I know that hole. Yeah, that's kind of it's like that's my hole.
We'll fix that in post. Really? So okay.
See, I just think there are so many variables. It's like, okay, so the average human, right, I think can hold around like, if I remember this right, like 3 to like 5 variables maybe in their head. And we're talking like smart people, or 3 to like 5 variables, something like that.
What constitutes a variable?
Or like, so like say if you just have like some complex system that just has like, you change this and all these 3 things get affected.
Okay.
Right? In different ways, positive or negatively. Okay. Like up to like 5. Like smart people can like hold like up to like 5 variables in their head or something like that. And like kind of think through how they're all going to change and fluctuate,
Sure.
That's like none.
Sure.
Like compared to how many there are in like just in my fingertip, you know what I mean? Like how many variables there are. So it's like I'm acknowledging the low resolution and ignorance of this like brain that I have. Yeah. It's like there's so much more to even just reality than we can see, touch, or smell. It's like we know that. It's like there's a bunch of stuff right here that we 100% know is right here that I can't physically feel, touch, smell, or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then like claiming that the big mystery, like that's the big hole. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like claiming that, oh, I know that. It's this God. So and then after you claim to know that, then it's like, okay, well now it's this religion too. It's like I know there's a God, right? So which I also don't even know how it gets entity. I just see an absence of knowledge kind of thing, and some like areas of life that feel like magical, that I kind of have for that void. But I don't know how you get it to being an entity. And then I didn't know how once it was an entity, how would you choose which religion, kind of thing.
So you are saying the absence of knowledge is what has brought you to this conclusion of, I don't know, I'm never going to know, right? That's what you're saying?
The absence of knowledge of
the other side is what you're saying. So like what I would call God.
Yeah,
you're calling like this absence of...
It's like knowing how much horsepower this has and knowing how many variables there are, it's like, and knowing that personally, it's like, I've never like seen it, I've never touched it. I've had some weird emotional experiences, being like Christian stuff. I've definitely had like heart-touching experiences, but it's like I have no idea how those, besides someone telling me so, I have no idea how like this transcendent experience algorithms out to, oh, that's coming straight from this dude in the Bible. You know what I mean?
So
like
I would
like
say,
for me having like a transcendent experience, say like okay, like I was like meditating like on the side of a hill as the sun rose up one day, and like I like felt like I was connected to everything. It's like, okay, so I had that experience, but I just had that experience, and there wasn't like someone who's like, I'm God and I'm
right. It wasn't explicit, right? Like God, told you.
Yeah, but like there's no entity, and there wasn't like I can't assign magical things to this other thing because there's no link in between them. You know what I mean? Besides people saying there's a link. Besides the culture around me being like, oh, that was God that happened there. I'm like, well, like for me being like scientifically minded, it's like you have zero link. Like there's no link between it. It's like this happened, and then you say it's this thing, and there's no like causal link between them. Besides you just saying it's there. You know?
Do you think there's no link because it can't be measured?
Well, it's like I just don't know how they're linked. You know, it's like
so. But don't you? Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to. And I don't even really want to do like the debate thing. I'm just trying to like see. I'm trying to poke and see. You know, where like you. Yeah. So so to give you kind of my, and I want to get back to your story. So let's definitely get back to it.
Yeah.
Let me say what I want to say. You can respond, and we can get back to your story. I would say, as a Christian, and some Christians might not articulate it this way, but as especially somebody who cares about apologetics, Christian apologetics, how do I want to say this? What you're describing as we don't know what's on the other side. What did you say? That there was like half of the, what is it called?
The sine wave. The other half of the sine wave.
What is that? Sine wave.
Sine wave, just like in trigonometry, like a wave.
Oh, okay.
It's like, and you've got positive up here, negative down here, and it's like we've got, this is all of existence. So it's like kind of saying there's a bunch of other somethings. Know, kind of thing.
So what I would say,
if there's something else, kind of type of logic.
The point, okay, right. The things that we have in existence that we know are factually accurate, that seem to point to something that's unknown. That's where I wouldn't say the Christian God, but that's where I would say we've got some kind of intelligent entity on our hands. And then you've got, like what you were, I think, kind of saying, where you kind of get overwhelmed, is you've got your options between your gods that you can choose, or it could be something that we haven't discovered yet. Right?
Well, that's if I would choose that there is a God. Yeah, I wouldn't know where to choose. But I'm still on the like, I don't even know. Like, I don't think there's a God.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think there's something?
I think there is a huge hole of unknown, that we keep throwing the God word on.
Kind of goes into the bucket, so to speak.
Yeah. Like, and like I'm uncertain, and like I said, like I don't know.
You're
like I want to know.
You do want to know.
Yeah. Okay. But I don't really think I'm probably ever gonna know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it's like the things that I would say for me would draw a hole around something God shaped would be like, okay, like I really like nature, so like I've had experiences, where I'm like out by myself in nature and just like, say, like laying in the grass and like the wind's moving the grass, and it's just like, it's like there are things that just like move me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like I really, really feel certain things,
I'm listening. I'm looking up a Bible passage.
Oh, okay. So but like, for me, I'm trying to like figure out this world by like kind of like science, or just like by observing it, not someone telling me it's something, because I've got like friends who are like, bro, like this ghost like is totally haunting this place, and like I don't believe, I've never experienced that, it's like I don't really believe in that. It's like, or
in
like
ghosts,
or like Bigfoot or stuff like that. It's like,
right.
I just don't think they're there. I think they're just like, it's like why are the videos always like really shaky and blurry, and like it's like it's probably just not there. Like that's just kind of my conclusion on a lot of stuff. Like I was saying, like no one argues about chemistry. Existing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because it's just there, kind of type of deal. But, oh no, I forgot again where I was going.
I wanted to read, and I thought I had it in my notes, but physical things, body, physical creators, there's this passage that the Apostle Paul writes in Romans, without excuse. 120.
Oh yeah, while you're doing that, well,
Yeah.
I remembered. Yeah. So, like, I've had experiences like that, like magical feeling things, but for me personally, like, I can't. Besides people telling me, I don't have any way to link that to anything besides exactly what it is. You know what I mean? It's like I was out there and I felt that. And all that kind of means for me is like, I want to do that more. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like that feels right. That feels good.
You want to have that same.
Yeah. It's like, I want to go further down that road, but like jumping between that is you experiencing God. Like, to me, just seems like this monumental jump that just makes no sense to me. Sure. Unless you believe there's a God, you know, kind of thing. Then it's kind of like, then it's just kind of any of the unknown stuff. You just kind of jump to there, you know. But if it's a completely known thing, it's like taking a warm shower. It's like, man, that feels good. But when you take a warm shower, you're not just like, you're not like, this is experiencing God right now, you know?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But it's sensationally, they're both just sensations that you have, and there's no real distinction between the two of them.
I think that what the struggle is, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about at coffee. Christians today confuse emotionally charged events with God.
Yeah.
You know? And they assume sitting on top of the mountain, experience an incredible sunrise, the weather is perfect, you're with the people you love, and you're crying because you're so overwhelmed by the beauty of whatever is going on.
Yeah.
They say that that's God.
Yeah.
The problem is that that's not God. I would argue, the correct Christian interpretation of that event is that is something God has blessed me with. He's given me this world to exist in, to enjoy, not to worship, though. And I think that's where Christians can potentially enter into unknowing, like almost like idolization of the creation rather than the creator, right?
Yeah.
Your enjoyment. So like, this is from a personal experience. There was a point where I would have said, like when I'm playing my favorite video game and have a great drink, I just experience God so well in that moment.
Yeah.
Well, no. I mean, I'm enjoying something that God has blessed me with, but that's not necessarily me enjoying my relationship with God. Yeah. It's not wrong for me to sit there and play my favorite video game and enjoy a good coffee or whatever. But it's not God. It's not God in his truest form. You know?
Well, then with that logic, then where is it God then?
In
like when do you experience him then with that logic?
Well, you don't experience him through feeling. You experience him. Okay, I can see that. Are you asking however could you know him if that's not how you experience him?
Yeah. Sure. Well, if it's like if you rationalize it, because that's kind of the same way I would rationalize it. Then I'm like, well, then where would you be experiencing? Also, I don't know why we call him a him too either, but that's another subject.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I would argue that God does give you. I should be careful when I say what I just said. It's not that God never gives you feelings and emotions. It's not that he can't ever make you feel a certain way, but that thing that you're experiencing is not God. It's maybe a byproduct of your relationship with God, but it's not God. So what I would say is the core foundation of your relationship with Jesus or God, whatever, or whoever this God is, just to be fair for the sake of conversation. Let me go back. From the Christian perspective, the way that you know God is by studying his attributes, which come from the Bible.
Yeah.
Which
were written by people.
Yeah. But record, especially in this sense of the Gospels, like historical events. And so if you see these attributes of Jesus, you see his teachings, you see him teaching humanity to do certain things, to live certain ways, to act a certain way, to treat people a certain way.
Yeah.
That's how I would argue that's how we know God better, because you're getting as close as you can to God when he's expressed in a human.
Okay. So you're saying like getting more aligned to like everyone kind of like living in, say, harmony-ish on the world is getting closer to God kind of thing.
I think that would be...
Is that kind of what you're...
kind of an optimistic way to look at it, maybe. I would say that it's not necessarily about harmony. It's about, in the second world, in the new world, it'll be harmony in some ways, I guess. But I would say it's just about knowing the things that are written down about him. And then through that, you naturally will learn more about God.
Yeah.
Does that kind of answer your question? Maybe.
Kind of, a little bit.
Maybe elaborate on what you're saying.
Well, I think it's just maybe I don't like to get higher up with on the scale level of it. I don't like to get higher up into what I think, because it's like once I'm talking about you and your nuances inside of Christianity, it's like I kind of have no way to talk to you. Okay. You know what I mean? If I don't subscribe to your fundamental postulate that there's a God, you know what I mean? It's like once I don't subscribe to that, it's like there's no real use or purpose, I feel of me arguing with you about that certain belief that you have inside of that box, if that makes sense.
Sure, yeah. So then let's just back it up.
Yeah.
I would say let's just stay away from even we could probably touch on Jesus existing, but we don't need to go to
I'm pretty sure he existed as far as historians. You know what I mean?
I would say if you deny just the existence of Jesus, you're just foolish. There's so many people that say that. That said he didn't even exist, none of his apostles existed.
Well, that's just if you're just into history, he's there.
Yeah. There was a passage that I wanted to read real fast just so I don't forget. And maybe it won't matter to you.
Or at least he's as much there as any other historical figure. And he's actually probably more there than a lot of other historical figures.
He is. So
because he's very talked about and very
right. In extra biblical sources
documented.
Too. Yeah. So Tiberius, the Roman emperor of the time, there is actually less historical documentation of him
about him
than Jesus.
Yeah, no, I've heard one of my buddies talk about how it's either Greek or Roman stuff, how it's all of our history from Greek or it's either Greek or Roman, I can't remember.
It's probably both.
It's based on barely anything. It's just one little book or something like that, it's there's all this history, but Jesus definitely, he's got a lot of stuff about it.
Well, he's got the 4 Gospels, which I would argue are historical pieces of literature, and then you've got Josephus, you've got Tacitus, which is Josephus is a Jewish historian who was he was, I don't remember, I just read about him recently because I didn't know a ton about him, but he was a Hebrew, a Jew, and then I think what happened is he surrendered. The Romans came into wherever he was living, killed a bunch of people, and he was the only one that was I surrender. And they took him in and actually made him part of the Roman, someone's family. I think he actually came under the emperor or something, and then received honor because he surrendered, and then used Roman funding to learn more about his people, the Jewish people, and then he included Jesus and his crucifixion and stuff. And then Tacitus was an actual Roman historian as well. So both of them were historians that were not Christian at all.
That reference Jesus.
They reference him and record, I'm pretty sure, his crucifixion as well.
Oh, really?
Which throws because the big Islam thing. I've been on an Islam kick recently. I'm sure you picked up on that. They say he wasn't crucified, which I think is so strange.
Oh, okay.
So weird. I don't get it. And then the Jews say he wasn't resurrected.
It's probably doing some of that confirmation bias,
Islam.
Well, it's they probably just have some reason why they don't want him to have been crucified that fits some hole that they have,
Yeah, I have a lot to say about Islam in particular and Mormonism that I don't want to I really want to get into it, but I want to go back to your story. Do you have anything else you want to say about history side of things and Jewish and Jesus existing and all that?
No. Just I was just saying, it's just I just find it it's futile because I've had a bunch of talks. It's futile to have any insights or any worthwhile conversation arguing or talking about things inside your box.
Yeah, when you don't even recognize the box's existence.
Yeah. My problem's outside the box kind of thing, before the box, if that makes sense. Yeah,
totally.
But where was I on my story? I was
so I think you had barely gotten into it. I think it was you were starting to be either this is real or it's not.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
Yeah. So I just kind of I kind of came to these conclusions that I want to try to figure out the world through like actually interacting with it and experiencing it and coming to it open. Because I think there's a lot of like nuance and experience to coming to something not formatted. And what I mean by that is like you're coming into a situation without preconceived notions. I mean, you're always going to have some, but like trying to come into life and situations without any preconceived notions of what this actually is. You know, like that example of D&D we were talking about, right? It's like I was just like, okay, let's see. I don't know what this is. You know what I mean? I have this like weird picture I've drawn around it in my head that outlines it based off of hot takes I've heard from people, but I had no idea what it even was. You know what I mean? So like that's the way I treat a lot of things in the world. Is just like, what is it? And I want to go up to it and touch it and interact with it, and then it's like, oh, that's what it is. You know? And I'm not saying like I'm not gonna like not just like throw out all of history and all of learning and philosophy because I just want to figure it out all myself. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can definitely glean some information from all this old philosophy and history and that stuff, but also just like go mess with it yourself. You know what I mean? Like don't just believe someone because they said it. You know, because there's a lot of people who say a lot of crazy shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like I just want to go. Yeah. And then this is where I've come to kind of like from just like going and experiencing and thinking through things myself of just like, okay, this magical thing happened to me. I know this is what someone would say, like I experienced God, but I'm like, okay, let me think about all the variables of the situation. It's like, okay, I felt this happened, this. I'm like, there wasn't anything that said it was an entity. There wasn't, honestly, they're just like, there's nothing that points to a God in there for me, you know, for like as far as experientially speaking. And then just like even like philosophically speaking, I just don't see where he's at, kind of thing.
Really? In philosophy you don't see where he's at?
Well, like I just don't. It's like I can see like I think it's just like an unknown. It's like I just don't see why it'd be an entity. And unless you're explaining like, I guess you explain away like how things got here with him. It's like it's pretty crazy that anything exists. With biology and
or like consciousness. Like how we're conscious and how we can like, and then how we. So if we believe things, well, Christians believe things were created, or if you're just a human being who's believes things were created, like then the fact that we also are conscious enough to then create ourselves, that's crazy too. Like, and how you explain that, I think, is
like wild. create yourselves and like the
fact that like we're creative, I feel like
like that we make things and we
right, that we design and we build and like I think is also just wild. I
mean
and points to something.
It is crazy and cool. I think it just points to the truth of it. Like for me, you know, it's like I think it's like, okay, and this also gets like this almost like edges on like AI stuff a little bit, and then almost edges on like what people think is consciousness. You know, but like for me personally, it's like I think like if you look in biology, it's like, okay, we have neurons firing in really like stupid things. We'll say like little single-celled organisms and stuff. Well, maybe not single-celled organism, but like it's really small organisms have like neurons and stuff in them. You know what I mean? And then like you can just like slowly scale that up to like different animals, right? And then like the amount of neurons and like neuron connections are like kind of correlated to how weird their behavior is.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like as you get like to smaller, like if you get into like an ant, you know, it's like it's got some complex behavior, but it's pretty like it's nowhere near a human.
Right.
But it also has way less neurons. Right. You know, and it seems like there was like a runaway positive feedback loop in evolution that kind of like made us keep thinking more and more and more. It's like we were very different than a dog as far as like how complex we think.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's running on this, like, if you cut him open, if you're an alien, you know, you come slice this guy open, and you look at both of them, it's like, well, they both kind of running on the same thing, you know? This guy's got more of it. He's got a lot more connections and stuff, you know? But I think but you can see a dog's making logical decisions, you know? But they're just kind of like lower resolution ones.
Yeah.
So it's like as we gain horsepower, and like kind of like AI, as we start making horsepower way bigger than a human brain, you know, then you can start to compute things even more than the human brain can compute, you know, as you scale the like logic circuits up kind of thing. So I just think it's just like I haven't fleshed this out, but it almost points to like, you know, the no free will thing a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I don't really know what I think about that. I almost think that's like a futile thing to be arguing about, because you still have to make decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
well, and then it's like
I get the concept and the idea, but I also have to like decide what to eat.
Exactly.
You know, so you know what I mean?
You make decisions every day, and you make mistakes every day, and
and that's kind of that's another thing. This with my whole thing of infinite variables of stuff. It's like, okay, if there are like infinite variables in just like all of existence, and it's really hard for us to compute a few of them, you know, we're going to run into a lot of things that are you can neither confirm nor deny. You know what I mean? Like it's like I could say that there's like a guy like right outside the camera. There's a guy that's like dressed like a unicorn, and he's like playing patty cakes or something, you know. It's like you can either confirm nor deny that he's there, you know. And there's like a lot of things where like, and then we could like really debate about that guy being there, what constitutes him being there, and then we could try tests and stuff. But it's like there's all of these like little loopholes, you know. And I kind of think like Christianity is a little bit of one of these, of where it's like it's not like you can't really prove it, you can't really unprove it. So it's like you kind of like accept it. You know what I'm saying?
I'm a little bit confused, and I think it's partially because my mind doesn't move as quickly as yours does. You're just a smarter person than me. But I'm a little bit confused where are you saying the unicorn standing outside of the door right there is?
It's like, to me, like there being a unicorn right there, to me is in the exact same category as you saying that there's a God.
Okay, because it's going off of because you're saying, I'm saying this. I even maybe documented it. But
it's not there. I can't test it.
You can't test it. Nobody can. You're going off of your word. That's the issue you're saying you have. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that your fundamental problem with religion?
Is
that premise
of like
you're going off of somebody else's word?
Not necessarily.
I'm not trying to trap you or anything.
No. I'm trying to think. Like maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, just like if it was there, I could like interact with it and like do stuff with it differently than everyday life, if that makes sense. So it's like if there's something, then there's something there. I feel like I'm
I think I know what you're saying. I'm trying to figure out what to say in response to that, because I think on some level I can agree with you. I would ask the question though, like, if assuming something does exist, I won't even use the word God, something.
Yeah.
There's something else. There's a spiritual something. How do you think it would be? How do you think that whatever it is, in an ideal situation, communicate to us?
Well, I just think it would just be. Like if it was real, it would just be like chemistry.
And see, I think
you know what I mean? Like we know.
I think the problem though is that like for Christians, it is like chemistry in the sense of we have recorded events that are written down that prove, and I would argue even today we have life change as a result of this God. Oh,
okay. Well, yeah, no, I think it's pushed humanity in a positive direction.
Totally,
for sure.
Yeah,
you can't argue that.
Yeah.
But like what I'm saying is like, okay, so if you could think through and we're kind of right at the edge of this, like if you could think of the perspective of being an AI model that's just now starting to think, like kind of thing. Like they used to kind of not think, and now they're starting to kind of think, right?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
I hate AI so much. I hate it.
I love it. But so if you can think of yourself as a perspective that you can just be like, oh, I can clearly see this human created me. And then like here are all the reasons why.
You're talking about the AI saying this?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's just like, we just are, you know what I mean? We did create it. We're here. You know what I mean? It's like, but like you can come up with all of these like undeniable, but arguable, all right, I'm not saying my words correctly, like unprovable, but arguable postulates of like there being something.
Unprovable in the sense of...
Like I can't test it. It's like I can't really gather data about it.
Okay.
But I can sit there and argue about it philosophically being there kind of thing.
But you
and that's
also...
like with the free will thing. That's kind of what I was saying. It's like I understand it, and I almost kind of think like I don't have it, but I also like think...
That's interesting.
Like maybe like but within that framework. It's like I think that. Like I think that's the most logical thing with what data I have and like in that framework. But I don't necessarily know if that framework is actually real or worthwhile.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I can visualize and understand everything inside of the whole free will argument, right? And it's like I'm pretty sure I'd be on the side of that we don't have any free will. But also I do just have to make decisions all the time. You know what I mean? So it's like a futile thing to be arguing about. So I kind of think like that and like God, they're kind of like, there are these arguments and there are these things that it's like they're byproducts of like talking or something like that. You know what I mean? Okay. Like if I didn't have language, we wouldn't even be arguing about this stuff, you know, or talking about it. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. But
I know that's kind of a rough concept I'm trying to like get across to you, but like
I think, and it's funny, you're sounding more like an atheist.
Oh, really?
For sure. Yeah, I mean to me, because your big premise is I don't know.
Yeah.
And you won't even...
But see, being an atheist is claiming there isn't something.
You're right.
It's really claiming you know something.
So you're not a deist. You're not. Maybe you are more of an agnostic. It's really tough to. I mean, I know you don't want to be in a category, which.
It's just like.
Which is understandable. That's kind of how I am within the world of Christianity. I don't really want to be on anybody's team. I just want to be on Team Jesus. What was I going to say? Okay, but to push back a little bit, you accept that love and hope and fear are all real, somewhat tangible things, right?
Kind of.
Really?
So like, okay, so like when you say, I guess I need to understand what you're saying when you say that. So like, love, for instance, like when I experience love, right? I think love is a word that I'm putting on top of like 20 different variables that hit certain limits in my brain, and then I'm like, this is love. You know what I mean? Like
it's neurons firing.
Like if I'm just being kind to you, right? You know, you wouldn't say that's love.
Sure, I would.
Okay, or maybe you would. So, but like, I guess then you get into like the different words of love. Like, okay, I think it's like the agape love that people talk about, right?
Yeah,
that's like
agape and
whatever you would say you feel between you and your wife.
Okay,
right?
Romantic love,
that love, right? You wouldn't. That love is a lot of variables to get there.
Of course.
Right? Yeah. And I think love isn't a thing. Love is a word that we kind of like encapsulate a bunch of these variables with that word. You know what I mean?
But you would say it exists.
Like
love exists. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, all those things that compute up to you saying love exist.
Interesting.
But like I don't think love is just a thing. Because it's not like It's not really definable.
It's not material. It's not something. And I use the word tangible. That maybe isn't. I mean, it's somewhat tangible. It's not physical. It's not material. But we all recognize that it's real, or like hope, or fear. So my point that I'm trying to bring this home to is just because you can't measure something. It's not material. It doesn't exist within the tangible world that I can feel and touch and smell and taste. Doesn't mean that
it's not real.
Right.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah. And I was even saying that, like, we got all this information just in front of us in the air right now, you know, like through our Wi-Fi, you know, kind of thing.
Right.
So it's like, like I acknowledge that.
Sure.
But I can also get out a meter, and I can like logic my way through like all the science of how this meter works and that it's testing real things. And like I can meter it. And like, okay, we got low Wi-Fi signal here. We got high over there. I can go to the source that's making it. I can look at it. I can turn it off. I can turn it on. You know, it's like, it's like a thing I can't do anything about, but I can like have a bunch of tools that can analyze it and test it. You know what I mean?
But you can't do that with love and hope and fear. And so my point is that even though those things you can't measure with a meter or anything like that, you can't scan for love. You can notice a heartbeat. You can notice how my hormones are, whatever, but you can't really measure it.
Yeah.
Not really, right?
Yeah.
And I would argue the same thing goes for God. And I would argue even further because he's infinite and transcendent and he exists outside time and space and all those things. And I would say that just doesn't prove God, but it definitely says like, okay, God is somewhat knowable. Like, I would say it's within the realm of possibility.
If he's real, he should be knowable.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I really have to pee. I'll be right back.
Okay, I gotta pee too. So like once you.
I don't even remember what started our conversation on the more philosophical side, but because we got into like, you know, it was love and hope and truth. And fear.
Just like him, like you're saying, like these things that are intangible,
but exist.
Yeah, but I was kind of like I don't really think they exist in like this type of exist. They're just a word on top of like a cocktail of chemicals inside your body.
So would you reduce human experience to neurons firing and chemical reactions? And
as far as I know, if that makes like I'm really open. Like there are we kind of like don't really know how memory's stored. I'm pretty sure. Like it's kind of like it's a little squirrely once you get down in there of like what's actually happening, where it's being stored.
Okay.
Like we can kind of look at it. It's like all these things connect to each other. It's like when you make new thought, you kind of like grow like an axon out here and stuff like that. It's like, you know, but like I'm really open to there being some weird stuff in there, if there is, that we haven't known and documented. Because I'm just acknowledging that there's like so much vast infinity that we don't know, that like it's crazy. But as far as I know, that's what it seems to be. You know what I mean?
But even so, like, I would argue you probably don't live your life that way. Like, you don't live your life with the assumption that love is just chemical reactions.
True. Yeah. No. Yeah.
And so then I would go further and say, why do you live like that?
Well, because you have to choose where to put frameworks. Because it's like, okay, if you don't choose to put like a box around something, everything explodes into infinity. You know what I'm saying? Like everything, like if I don't say this is a microphone, then I start thinking, oh, well, this is an extruded piece of aluminum, you know, and it's got a bunch of plastic and a bunch of solder, and it's got some gold in there. Where'd that come from? You know what I'm saying? Like everything explodes into infinity really quickly if you don't just choose to be like, this is a microphone. You know what I mean? And as far as like concepts, like love is a very like, it's a very common thing. It's a very positive thing. We all know what all those chemicals feel like in us, but it's like I'm not going to be like, man, I saw this chick and it's like I got a hit of this endorphin, and these neurons got, you know. So I'm just going to say love. You know what I mean? Sure.
But okay, and I think what I'm trying to say is,
and I'm not saying that it's not magical.
Yeah, what I'm saying though, and I'm not even like, I'm just saying that most people that would land in your camp live like somebody that subconsciously recognizes the existence of a creator without, even while saying, I just don't know.
Okay, so I can see why you can say it, and this will get us down a different path to talk about. Is from your perspective, yes. But I'll say a lot of things that I think are like moral actions, right?
Yeah.
That's also an interesting word.
Morals.
But like, I can derive them all from like making my species survive further into the future as like the one logic rule kind of thing.
Okay. Elaborate. What do you mean?
You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, like being good to your neighbor, right?
Yeah.
It always comes back like it's good for you. Like it literally, like no hokey pokiness in there, like no God in there.
Mm-hmm.
Being good to your neighbor actually does good stuff for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And like living a better life with like less anxiety, less is going to make, your species live longer. It's like,
yeah. But so, okay. Yes, agreed.
Like optimizing for life makes just more, like I think morals just make sense based on like.
Hello, everyone. During Jade and my recording of this episode, the GarageBand audio just decided to pause. So if you're wondering why between the last few seconds of footage and the next few seconds, there's a little bit of a divide. That's why. We knew it happened in the moment, so I think we retraced our steps pretty well. But that's why there's a little bit of a divide. It's going to happen again later in the episode too, and that one we weren't able to retrace our steps as well with how much audio footage we lost, which really sucks. GarageBand / Apple, do better. All right, bye. Okay. Anyway,
where were we at?
You were talking about how morals make sense because as a culture we're trying to be better, right? That's kind of where you're getting at?
Oh, yeah, I was talking about like if you take like a biological, like a life form, right, is trying to progress itself further into the future. That's like that's the basic main kind of like premise of being alive, I guess you would say, is like to make more of you and go further into the future kind of thing. So it's like, I think doing things that people think are moral are just like smart things to do. Like, I think like I can't really distinguish between, besides that there's a lot more variables in it, I can't really distinguish the decision of like me just like moving my foot and me being nice to you. You know what I mean? Like if I want to get somewhere, I walk there, and that's just like, I just decide to walk and I walk, and it's a pretty simple thing. No one debates about it or anything. But then like morals, it's just kind of like, there's a lot more variables in there. Mm-hmm. So it's a little harder to think through. But I think if you just think through it, it's just kind of like, it's just a long chain decision. Like being kind to everybody, like, just helps you out in life. Like the more kind of like, because it's kind of like, you kind of like keep like a little bit of a toll, I think, in your head of like, okay, this person's done this nice thing to me, and kind of like, and I know that kind of makes it sound a little drab and dry.
No, I know what you mean.
But like, and then like, if you're just nice to others, they're going to be nice to you. Mm-hmm. It's like usually people respond to you starting something, like if you like start talking to someone, make a joke and like self-deprecate yourself, you set this bar really low and people are just going to interact with you kind of like normal, but if you come off in like, you start off with like being like kind of like all high and mighty, and stuff like that, it's like you're going to have less interactions because you like started it that way.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's just like you kind of have like, from being like arrogant and all-knowing, like you just get worse outcomes than being like open and like nice and kind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think
you just do. But I don't think it's.
Yeah.
I don't see anything magical in that. Like I don't see any difference between that and me just making a decision to walk over there. You know what I mean?
And that's,
besides that, it's more complicated. It's a lot more complicated.
But well, and that's where our worldviews branch off. So like, because in this, I think I'd disagree in terms of like your decision to walk from one place to another, from one building to the next, pretty much has no impact on anybody, whereas loving your neighbor does have impact on somebody else. And so in that way, I think there is a difference. And I would also, I think I probably disagree when I think you said like, well, no, okay, so to back up that point that I just said, I would say to be kind to somebody might give you a good feeling, but it's not necessarily good for you in the sense of efficient. Like it's not the most like that's not. I'm trying to figure out how to use. Like, are you familiar with like utilitarian? That viewpoint. It's essentially what's efficient and what's best for all of us for the sake of efficiency. So like me stopping on the way home from work to give the homeless guy, buy the homeless guy dinner, is not efficient, and it's not good
based on some criteria.
Based on in my own life,
efficiency is all just defined by a criteria.
Sure, but it
like
yes, right.
What you're optimizing for, you know.
But if the
I think it's perfectly efficient if I'm optimizing for having a good life and having a bunch of positive connections with people.
Is it though? Because I could be home sooner and be enjoying my favorite show right now, but instead I'm missing 15 minutes of my favorite show because I'm hanging out with the homeless guy. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah.
It
depends on what you set as your variables.
As your parameter, or your variables, And I would argue setting your variables as I want to be a good person by serving the homeless. I want to be a good person by loving my wife more than I love myself. I want to love other people before I love myself. There's no other reason to do that aside from attributing that value system that you have to a higher being. Because if you don't, then what's even causing you to live for anybody else?
So what do you mean by like living? So like, can you just re-say that again?
Sure, I said it kind of messy.
Yeah.
I would say if you...
Because I think I was tracking with you all the way to the end, and then you made the jump of like attributing it to a higher power.
Yeah.
So
I think yes, I see the confusion. Because I did make that jump pretty quick. Whether or not you attribute it to God, I would argue that even subconsciously, you're probably attributing that lifestyle of living sacrificially to God, like without even admitting it. Like you're doing that because there is a creator that has given you what the Christians call the image of God. Is that the right word? The image of God? I think so. And that naturally causes you to know that it's good to buy the homeless guy dinner or
but to a certain extent, you know, because if you go full Jesus on everything, you're kind of just like a slave to being good, and there's no you to be had. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
Yeah.
And that's the Christian perspective. Like, and not to say that you can never have enjoyment,
but then it's also like it's not even like worth. Like if I was just like serving others all 100% of the time, there'd be like no reason really for me to even exist.
And that's where our worldviews differ, right? Because if Jesus really was the person that the Gospels claim he was, and if his message was reality, and that was kind of his message: love God, love others, carry your cross. Yeah. That is what human existence is supposed to be. It's not. You can have entertainment and have like experiences that you find joy in, but that's not what life is about. It's about serving other people and about serving God.
Yeah, I think I definitely. That's an interesting thing. What are your core defining values for living your life? Like what are the things at the bottom of all of your logic and all your stuff that point you towards making decisions in life? Like what are you optimizing for, kind of thing?
I mean,
I could give you an example.
Yeah, maybe give me an example.
So for me, I love human connection. Like I love connecting with people and talking to people. Mm-hmm. So I'm optimizing for that. And I'm optimizing for having I want to have a family at some point in time. Mm-hmm. And I also like my family, you know? And I also I always struggle to get to define this third, but nature, beauty, art, kind of all stuff in that genre. So I kind of like these three things that like, and excuse me, they have like a lot of overlap and stuff like that. But it's like I'm really like, I really value those three things,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to optimize my life for those three things, and then I'm making a bunch of decisions based off of those, getting higher scores on those three things. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So like, what would that be like for you then there?
Well, I do my best to live a life that reflects the ideal Christian value system. So, living a life in service to other people. The first person in my world is my wife. Like after serving God, like that's the primary way that I would say day to day I worship Christ, is by doing my best to live for her sacrificially. Yeah. And then after that, it's other people, like the friends in my life, the other family that I have in my life. I'm not very good about the homeless, helping homeless people, XYZ, right? Like that's something that I know a Christian is called to, but I don't do good enough at. So my point in saying all of that is Scripture is like the number one thing, and the reason it's Scripture is because that's the story that God has given me about Himself. And then underneath the umbrella of God falls Scripture, and then underneath that umbrella falls serving my wife first, serving my family, serving my friends, serving the people around me that I don't know. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then this, I'm kind of just going squirrely here. Okay, you're good. If you don't mind. So this brings up something interesting of like, okay, so what you kind of set up as your boundaries for your story. So it's like, so you probably feel some sort of negative emotion if you sat and thought about it towards the way that you don't give to the homeless, right? Right? So like, because of the story, so you're saying there's this optimal story that I should be fitting into. The Bible, you mean? Or you mean like the overarching narrative of my life as a Christian? Yeah. Okay. Like you kind of have like an idea of what that story is, you know? And then you regulate your emotions and base the way you interact with people based off of how you're referencing that story to yourself. Okay. Right? You know, it's like, well, I didn't do that, so negative emotion. It's I did do that, positive emotion, you know? Sure. And so, like, it kind of seems like, from having talked to a bunch of different people and stuff, it's kind of just like, whatever you choose are those things that kind of dictate your emotions and, like, how upset you are and how much you feel emotion towards these things based on how much value you as a human kind of imbue them with. You know what I mean? And, like, here's a good instance of, like, okay, my, like, I had a cousin die once that very much not a good person. Like, at least to my perspective. Like, just, like, not a good person. Didn't... And I was kind of mean to me most of my life. He was older than me and stuff like that, you know. But when he died, that, like, barely affected me at all. You know what I mean? Because, like, all I got was kind of, like, negativity from this thing. It's like, you know, I know he's a human, you know what I mean? But, like, I didn't put anything into that relationship, nor did I ever want to, you know, kind of thing. And so my reaction to that him dying was proportional to what was there, kind of thing, and based off of like that the like how if he was kind of like a good or bad actor in my story, you know what I mean? It's like you don't get sad when a bad actor dies in your story, kind of thing. But like, so okay, my grandfather died, different story. You know, it's both death of someone related to me, you know. But like, I had in my head some more story left. You know what I mean? Like with when him. He died. Yeah. It's like there was and I also had a bunch of good story with him, you know. Yeah. That now can't be related upon and stuff. So it's like my response to him dying was proportional to how much effort I put into it, you know. And I think love's kind of like that. You know what I mean? It's like the more you put into it, the more it kind of like takes out of you a little bit, if that makes sense. Or it's like the extent that you love is the extent that you hurt. Okay.
You see what I'm
Like
trying
I
to
can
say?
see what you're saying.
Like
yeah.
it's really proportional.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like you kind of have to decide, and you're kind of the judge. It's like you kind of have to decide like, okay, what things am I going to deem are valuable or good in my story that I'm going to put effort into that are going to affect me this way, kind of thing,
So I'm tracking with you.
Yeah.
What's
Didn't really go anywhere.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying. I thought you were. Okay.
I don't know. I just kind of went on
Making a
like a little
callback.
tangent there.
Sure.
But like,
I can see that. Mm-hmm.
But like, I think that it kind of shows how you have to wrestle with all of these different. Being a Christian, it's right. It's like, okay, I have this whole book. I got this whole Bible. And now I've got to wrestle with all of these stories that I should be adhering to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's probably, to me, there's some useless fretting and grief in there that you have to go through. It's like, well, this is the actual true story, and I have to be living by this true story for it to kind of, like, my life to be good, quote unquote, then you're creating,
sort of.
You're
Let's come back to
creating
that.
more negative emotion that you have to experience because you're not adhering to some of these values, than need be. If that makes sense.
Okay, so you're saying that the human being reading the biblical story is creating the negative emotion based on how he or she should feel about the value system that the Bible gives them?
Yeah, so it's like, if this is the story that I'm subscribing to and I should be living kind of by these values and these ideas, and I think some of them are not good, I think.
Okay.
Or maybe not good, or just like unoptimal, more, I think is a better way to say it. Then you run into negative emotions when they mismatch reality that you don't necessarily have to. Like I'm saying, like I don't I don't feel any negative emotion about like not giving the homeless guy food.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because, and I mean, I haven't really thought about it that much kind of thing, but like, and maybe if I really thought about it and I got into the woodwork of like really what I should do, maybe I would start feeling negative emotion about it. But like, especially for anxious types, I think there's a lot of things that's like, okay, here's all these rules you should be adhering to. And then like this Bible just gives them like a million things to be anxious about, But I'm not, that's kind of a poor critique, honestly, because you can just say that about anything. But
Yeah. I mean, it's because the Bible is not like people give it a bad rap as a rule book when that's not really what it is.
Yeah.
There's the 10 Commandments, and then there's the law that take up a large chunk of the Old Testament, and then there's Jesus fulfilling and then elaborating on those things. And so, I mean, the point of the whole Bible is that you are not a good person and you need God. That's if there was a thesis of mainly the New Testament, that's the nation of Israel. That's what they represent. This consistent over and over attempt to do things on your own and then realize I've screwed things up and I need God, and God continuously forgiving them. And that is pointing to Jesus and the forgiveness that he offers us. And that's why as a Christian, you recognize I'm going to live every day and ultimately I need a savior. There's nothing I can do without a savior.
Like I just don't have like any guilt for any of that stuff. Like that's one thing that's interesting. Like when you like kind of on exiting, it's like, okay, now the devil isn't real and demons and all like that just isn't real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like I don't have that looming over me. Yeah. All these things like feeling guilt about. It's like I don't have them, but I can still aim up and be good.
Sure, but the question is...
You don't need all the anxiety and all the, like...
So, okay, sorry. And the reason I kind of got into that was because I wanted to answer your question on anxiety. There doesn't have to be there doesn't necessarily... I'm not saying people shouldn't be anxious. Well, I guess in some ways I am. What I'm saying is it's not like anxiety is abnormal. My point is that when you realize that you don't really have to do anything, it's all been done for you, the anxiety tends to just go away if you're processing that. It's like, are you saying that with like Jesus kind of thing? Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Now there may be anxiety approaching the giant library that the Bible is and trying to work through theology. Like that can, bring some anxiety and stuff. I'm not like for me it has figuring out where I land on certain theological topics, But when you realize that you don't have to be a good person to be saved, you just have to realize I'm not a good person, and perfect has been done for me. Like,
well, yeah, yeah, I guess I kind of agree with that, but on just of like the perfect doesn't exist.
Yeah,
it's like I'm just trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be better,
mm-hmm.
and there's no reason to like regret that. I said some just try not to say it again. Just always try to be better and don't regret.
Yeah,
regret is just kind of like just getting stuck back in time almost.
Yeah, and
I mean, it's there for a purpose because it's like it's fuel to change.
Sure,
but it's like I don't think like you have to fundamentally like ruminate on it or something.
Sure.
I don't know. I've noticed with a bunch of my Christian friends that there are things that are way heavier for them, like about life, because they think of the consequences of it than it is for me. Yeah,
I would agree with you.
Yeah,
because
I don't really think if there's no heaven or hell, if there's no kind of like cookie at the end of the stick, you know what I mean? It's like there's no like incentive for like I'll do something, I'll mess up, and I'm like, man, I shouldn't have done that, and like I'll apologize or like but then I just move on. It's like there's no like tally box, or there's no like negative spirits or like I don't know.
Well, and there's
no scary stuff.
In some ways, that's sort of the Christian walk with like sin. Like when you sin, the idea is you repent of it, you look to Jesus for forgiveness, to God for forgiveness, and then you move forward. There's no sense of like. So in some ways, I think I understand, like your Christian friends looking at sin in a way that. Well, you wouldn't even think sin is a thing, probably. But
I don't even know what it is. Yeah.
Christians looking at sin, and it grieves them, and I would say that's a biblical perspective to have. Yeah. Like sin is bad. Sin is the absence of God's goodness. So of course it's going to grieve them. But on the other hand, because again, perfect has been done for us. That's I feel like the best way to say it. We need to recognize how awful sin is, but then be willing to move past it. I did that thing, but I've asked for forgiveness. I know Jesus forgave me for that, and you move forward. Doesn't mean that you can't be sad about things for an extended period of time. But ideally, even a Christian shouldn't be existing. Not existing. Staying kind of stagnant in like, oh, I'm so sad I did that. I'm so sad I did that. Jesus already paid for it. Move forward. Does that make sense for in terms of a response to that?
I get what you're saying. Like I said, that also kind of falls into that category of like it's worthless for me to poke holes into a system
because it doesn't matter to you.
Yeah,
no, that makes sense.
Well, not even that it doesn't matter. Cause
I said that.
But like it's like Christianity is a decently complete box with its own logic that kind of works when you accept a few things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like critiquing it from the outside is pointless, Yeah.
But, do you want to touch on kind of where it all changed for you? Because I think you were kind of getting at it, and then we went down a couple rabbit trails, but
there wasn't really any
moment.
There wasn't a whoa. I mean, I kind of remember this moment, maybe in the shower, kind of being you know what? I'm just going to kind of set this down, you know, and just see what happens. I kind of remember a moment-ish like that. I don't know how much. It's a while ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
Memory's not that cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't
I have a horrible memory.
But yeah, no, there wasn't really any point. And then just going, I just grew up from there and just kind of you just get hold of the raw data yourself and come to a conclusion, kind of thing. And then, I listened to a lot of different people talk about it and stuff, you gain other opinions and stuff, but there wasn't any pivotal, there wasn't any big whoa moment, anything. It was just kind of a slow taper fade out kind of thing, so.
What was, because your parents were missionaries, right? Christian missionaries.
Yeah.
What was the moment for them? Do you know?
So for my dad, it was all kind of Bible based.
Okay.
And he had he just kind of went really in depth to where the Bible came from, you know, and like worked his way backwards kind of out through that way of like, okay, the Bible came from, and it's not my story to tell kind of thing, you know, but like he's very much into like all the like a bunch of little nuances about the Bible, and like, you know, he kind of came to this conclusion that like, oh, this is written by people, this has got errors in it. A lot of the things that I were just told in the church were things like just aren't actually in this book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
People just make up.
And
I
like
mean,
some
in all
like
religion, people
super
make up stuff,
fundamental
but
things just kind of like aren't explicitly in there, you know. It's like
Okay.
one big thing, and I don't want to argue this, but like
Okay.
one big thing that he kind of like is like, and you've probably heard this argument before, like, does Jesus really even claim that he was God? You know, you've probably heard hundreds of hours.
I got a response loaded. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
Yeah. So like stuff like that, you know, and then just kind of like slowly kind of was like, I kind of don't think this is true, you know, and kind of just slowly like backed up, and like with consequences, you know, having a whole family that has all that, like believes in all that stuff, and, you know, slowly backing out of that. But, you know, our family is more functional and better after. I mean, it was just gotten better, you know what I mean? Just as time has progressed. But like, yeah, that's one weird thing people always, I feel like, have a hard time wrapping your head around, is from coming from it and then not having it. It's like, well, why isn't your life worse now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, it's better off, you know, but it is worse. The negative products of exiting like Christianity are like a lot of relationships, you know, like him having years-long relationships with all these people, believe all this stuff, and then him kind of being like, well, I don't, and it was all related to that, you know, and then him, I don't think it's real, you know. It's like, I think like my dad personally lost probably a lot of kind of friendships and like relationships through that, you know.
Yeah.
But
which is heartbreaking. It's understandable from the Christian perspective in some ways, like from your dad's Christian friends being like losing that relatability. Not that it makes it right to not be friends, but it's like that would be, I think it would be tough if like my best friend said, yeah, I'm not a Christian anymore. Yeah. It would be like, I wouldn't totally know what to do, which is probably not great, but I wouldn't, you know?
Yeah. And that is interesting, of like the more kind of personable side of it, of being whatever I am, is like in this area, like we were talking right at the beginning, like for me, for like girlfriends, you know, like looking in that genre, or even just finding friends, it's really hard when you can't like relate or connect on something very fundamental, you know. Like if you're just like, oh, I'm Christian, it's like, boom, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of in your book, you know what I mean? Yeah. But like if I'm not, you're kind of like, oh, maybe you got some funky stuff floating around, maybe I don't want to like associate with this person, or like, you know.
Yeah. Just realized that's on again. Interesting. Was there so he did a deep dive into scripture, didn't realize. That's interesting to me, because I feel like, especially the Gospels, I don't know if you've done any research on the historicity of the Gospels.
I mean, I know a little bit, but not really anything personally I've done. But
it's just interesting because the Gospels themselves, I can't say a ton about the Old Testament. I think the Old Testament's a little tougher, but the Gospels themselves like are extremely historically reliable in terms of what we can, like when it comes to how we consider something historically reliable. They pass the test and go above and beyond in terms of like what's historically reliable. Like what I was talking about with like Tiberius, the Roman emperor from Jesus' time. Like we have less historical evidence for him, and we all say, like, none of us try to say that he's not an existent person that did the things he did and that were written down about him. So I guess it'd be interesting to talk to him. You know, he might totally annihilate me when it comes to evidence, but
he's that's his thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've listened to, I haven't done any researching. I mean, I've listened to a bunch of like, you know, podcasts or debates on it just because it was kind of relevant. But like, like my qualms don't get up to that level. You know? Sure. You know.
Yeah, and that's okay.
But
what was I going to say? I mean, well, obviously it's okay in the sense that like, I don't hate you for that. I would encourage you to like read that book right there, which you might disagree with, but
which one?
It's I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, obviously for me, it's easy for me to say it's incredible because I'm a Christian, but that has been, I'm not finished with it. I'm like 2/3 of the way done with it. It's incredible. So you should read that and then read some other stuff too. I would say just in terms of like, I know there's another one that I haven't read yet by Sean McDowell called Evidence Demands a Verdict. I think that's another one it's just Christian apologetics, you know?
Yeah.
I was going to say something. Oh, you touched on this earlier. You said there were some moments in your time as a charismatic Christian that you don't have an explanation for.
Yeah.
What are some of those things? If you can remember them.
Let's see. I gotta. It's a long time ago. It's gonna take a second.
That's okay.
Get me chugging back in here. Let's see. Like I remember like being like young and kind of like seeing like I think I saw like an angel like above my bed like very vividly. A couple
by yourself?
Times. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. This one's kind of weird. I remember like being like. And I was like really kind of like tuned up on all this kind of mystical like miracles happening and all this stuff. You know? So it's like,
well, you were conditioned to
this is my whole
it.
worldview, you know, kind of thing.
Yep.
Like, I think I put half my head through a wall once and nothing happened.
What?
Yeah, I know that just sounds crazy, doesn't it? Yeah.
Hold on. Wait, what? What do you mean?
Like I was like running, and like I saw, and like I was about like there was this kind of like. The wall that like if I would have hit it I probably like would have like really injured myself like the speed I was running, and I kind of just like saw my head go through it. I thought
what?
Yeah.
Were you at home or like
like
you were just
home.
Running being a kid?
Yeah. And I was a little older then. I was maybe like teenager years then. Let's see. Yeah, somewhere in there probably.
Interesting.
Wait, yeah, I think maybe just coming into being a teenager, maybe. I don't remember, but and the handfuls of other like weird. So like, okay, me and my dad, right, would like, we were kind of into this kind of like going ethereal. I don't know really how to put words.
What does ethereal mean?
Or like going into the spiritual realm. I think are like the buzzwords you were using. You know, like where my dad was at work, and I was at home, and I went to my dad at work, like in the spiritual realm, and like kind of like hugged him, and then came back. Had no communication with him the rest of the day, and he came home and like, did you come and like hug me?
Really?
Yeah. Like,
do you remember
like
actually doing that, hugging him at his work? Or
well, like in like kind of like in a spiritual like sense kind of like thing, you know, just like going there, like
interesting,
like weird stuff like that, you know.
So
bunch of weird stuff.
So it was almost an abstract kind of thing where it's like,
it's almost like this the genre that we were in when we were exiting was like almost like edging in on new age stuff.
So that's what I was gonna say.
Kind of like just weird stuff, you know.
And that's the danger of modern day Christian charismatic traditions. I think like it is super close to the new age kind of thing. And I don't know a ton about the new age. I know it kind of dabbles in like witchcraft and that kind of creepy stuff. So I'm not gonna claim to know.
Astral projection, I think is what they call it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's
you're right. That's why I recognize that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like going, which honestly maybe has something to it somewhere, just because of experiences, and like I kind of just have deleted it out of my world kind of since then. But like that could be something where like, you know, you give it a few years and like it's like, oh, we got a meter. You know, it's like it's like someone can go over there and do stuff. You know, like there's
And the thing with that, like when it comes to other spiritual realities, this is something I kind of alluded to earlier. I actually have zero problem with there being credible evidence for Joseph Smith seeing the angel I think it's either the angel Moroni or it's God himself. It's one of the two.
Oh, okay.
Seeing an angelic figure receiving the gold tablets. I have zero problem with that actually happening, because if we believe in a world where spiritual realities happen,
Yeah.
like I do,
Yeah.
I have zero problem in terms of like it happening. Obviously, I think it's scary and bad in some cases, but like I have zero problem with an angelic figure appearing to somebody and claiming I have the real thing, I have the real message, because the Bible makes it very clear spirits exist, and they want to deter you from the real truth. Like the apostle, again, I've come back to Paul so many times. He talks about if anybody comes to you with a different gospel, he says either me or an angel, an angel of light is what he uses.
Yeah.
Don't believe them. Let that person be anathema is the word that's used. Let that person be accursed.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it's almost like it's prophesied by Paul. I don't believe it's an actual prophecy, but like it's kind of this weird prophecy-esque type thing where it's like Paul is saying this is probably going to happen. The angels are going to appear to other people and claim they have the real message. So you've got like Muhammad claiming that he sees Gabriel in a cave, the angel Gabriel, when it's the attributes that are for this that this angel seems to have are nothing like the biblical Gabriel. He's like grabbing Muhammad and like squeezing him to death and all these crazy things, and it's like that's not ever what an angel in the Bible did. I don't know where I was going with that. I think I was trying to say that I have zero problem with those spiritual experiences actually happening. Zero problem. My thing is that if it doesn't seem to align with biblical values, it's probably demonic. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's a strong way to put it.
Yeah. So
that's where I land.
Yeah. So here's something. I think I probably have an interesting perspective on like experiences like that, having believed them and having been in them and having not been, and now don't like kind of.
Yeah.
I might maybe not necessarily like believe in them, but like don't do them.
Yeah.
That's a weird way to say it, but. So I've noticed, I've started like just thinking through this of like, okay, religious experiences, ghosts, Bigfoot even, you know, or aliens even. You start to get in this category of things where it's kind of like, okay, people are debating if they actually do happen or not. One that's already like for me, like from what I've talked so far, it's like that's already I'm smelling something kind of a little wrong there. But then they always kind of have these similarities of like it's like okay, it's like at nighttime. Most of all this shit happens at nighttime. You know what I'm saying? All the weird stuff happens at nighttime.
Why is that the case? It's so weird.
Weird things. So it all happens at nighttime. It all kind of is like blurry. And fringy, you know, it's kind of like I kind of thought he looked like this or like thing, you know, it's like it's never like clear defined. There's usually a lot of fear involved. Yeah. And I mean, I almost kind of hook a lot of like those kind of, and this is mostly on the negative kind of side of it. I kind of hook a lot of those experiences up to just like your fear circuits working overdrive in your mind, like at nighttime. You know what I mean? It's like you can't see things. Things are blurry. It's like maybe that was a black bear you saw because they stand on all fours, you know, and they're huge, you know. Or
but a black bear saying, I have the new message from God.
Yeah, no.
You know, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a little crazy. But like, I don't know, like there's a whole bunch of stuff that we are all perfectly fine with just writing off as crazy people. You know what I mean? Like there's a bunch of, and then it's like, but then if it pertains to your religion, we're like, oh, we got to make sure that fits in here somewhere. You know what I mean? But there's like people hallucinate weird stuff. Yeah. You know, like people have weird personality disorders where weird stuff happens, or like, you know.
I think the argument for Christianity, though, because I know what you're saying. I think the argument for Christianity, though, is the amount of people saying the same thing, and the 500 people that claim to have seen Jesus after he walked out of the grave. That would be mass, not delusion. Okay, this was the part of the video I alluded to earlier where we lose the audio again. I don't know why it happened, probably just because something has to go wrong every single episode I make of this podcast. So we lost about 5 minutes of footage here. We talked about like hallucinations, and I think I made some points about like the 500 witnesses that saw Jesus probably weren't hallucinating, even though there has been mass hallucinations in history, but maybe not to that degree. And then somehow we got down the rabbit trail of like hallucinogenics, and Jade was talking about people seeing the Hat Man when they like do psychedelics or something like that. Yeah, so sorry this happened. Bye.
We're back.
Okay. All right. Seeing the Hat Man.
Seeing the Hat.
That's what we were talking about. Okay, back up to like talking about how people see things on
different drugs. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just think I don't know. I think it's pretty. It's interesting and it's unexplainable.
Right.
You know. And there's like, is it still going?
It's going. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out how to make it track with me. Okay. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of categories of things where it's like I don't have an answer for them.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my whole mojo. You know, it's like I don't need to have an answer. You know?
Mm.
And I think
Yeah.
I think a lot of people could even in Christianity, it's like maybe we just don't need an answer. You know?
In like what we would
Like-
call secondary open-handed issues.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
just be chill.
Yeah. Yeah. What would it take? You probably don't even have an answer for this.
Yeah.
What would it take for you to be a Christian?
It'd probably take a lot, honestly.
Okay.
Like I would have to have most of my life experience upended, right? And that like I was kind of like living under a facade, right? That like a God doesn't exist. So I'd have to have all that upended.
Yeah.
And then I would, it'd probably just have to be for me that like there just like was a God, like, oh, like, I don't know, like I'd like see him or just like proof for him, data for him.
See, I would say we'd have data, maybe not proof, but data for sure with the Bible, you know, and then extra biblical.
Yeah. Besides words.
Really?
Yeah. Besides words.
What about miracles?
Just like measurable. Oh, that's a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But
probably different podcast.
Especially if you get Catholic-y on it.
Oh, really? How so?
Have you ever looked into the miracles?
Huh.
Oh, that's something. That's really interesting.
Okay.
So they have really well-documented miracles.
Okay.
And they call them, what are they called? There's a word for it.
Okay.
Like they have a word for like these things that like a miracle happened. Like they've got like a painting that they think was just painted out of thin air.
Interesting.
They've got all these artifacts and like stuff that are kind of like miracle adjacent and stuff, you know? Yeah, that's, if you want a podcast topic, miracles. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, miracles in the Catholic faith. That's something to look into.
Okay.
But where were we going with that?
I was
asking. Oh,
asking-
yeah, what would it would take me? Okay. So I'd probably have to experience something. But even then, so it's like, okay, and then it'd have to be like explicit, then it'd probably have to explicitly state to me, you know, like I am this God that it's talking about in the Bible, and like, you know, I don't know, it'd take a lot, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it would take a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people get converted with an experience, you know, like of like, oh, I felt all this stuff. And I mean, we've already laid out for me, it's like me just feeling a bunch of things isn't going to like equal something in my head.
Right.
So, I don't know. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, I'm also like, I'm not searching for anything.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, I guess I'm searching for truth. I'm always just digging into new stuff, trying to find out more about what is real. And if if I stumbled upon a path that led me to the end of it and I was like, oh, this is real, then I'd be like, oh, well, I got to change some stuff, I do, I want to not identify or hold on to any truths. You know what I mean? I don't want to identify with things in that if it changes, I'm going to change. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah.
So if something was foundationally true and it did change your worldview, you wouldn't I want
to have it set up so that it's like I wouldn't have a huge emotional response if I found out that something different in physics. You know what I mean?
Okay, but I'm talking about groundbreaking, world-changing truths.
Yeah.
If you did discover something that contradicted your current kind of framework, would you then change your worldview?
Yeah,
okay.
If I did. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to I don't want to identify with my worldview and cling to it.
Oh, okay, you're saying the opposite of what I was assuming. I thought you were saying you were holding on to the worldview you have now and you're not going to let go.
No. I'm saying this is what I found, but I don't want to identify with it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to be and that's why I don't want to be I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
Or I'm
an
agnostic
or whatever.
Yeah, it's because I feel like clinging to things and identifying with them it's a little useless in my opinion. So then if something happened and that was the true thing, it just change. It's the same to me as if I read a paper that was oh, this thing in physics is completely different. I'd just be oh, okay, it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's I don't really have any emotion attached to physics.
Yeah.
But
sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Cool. One of the questions that guy poses is which I think I'm basically already asked, is if the Bible were true, would you believe it? What do you think how you'd answer that?
I think that's kind of a stupid question.
A lot of people say no.
A little bit. If the Bible was true, would you accept it?
Would you believe it? Would you believe it? Would you? No, I think that is what he says. I think.
I feel like it just sounds like a stupid question.
It does. Agreed.
If this is the truth, would you
believe it?
Would it still be the truth?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's okay, so if everything in the Bible was truthful,
right?
Would
you subscribe to Christianity?
Well, okay, but I mean, I think it is truthful in the fact that it's a lot of it is stuff that's happened and it's stories.
Sure.
So then, what true in the sense that it's there? It's the Bible. It's there.
Okay, sure.
Are you saying it's true in the sense of its claims? If what it claims to be true, would you believe it?
I guess I just don't know how that's different from what you were saying.
If what it says more than it tells.
So let's make this simpler. If Jesus was a person, well, you're already there. If Jesus was God, and that was clearly laid out in the Gospels. How would you feel about that? I don't know.
I don't know.
Because I think where you're at right now is you're not sure, based on maybe what your dad had kind of come to the conclusion of, you're not sure that Jesus did claim to be God, and definitely you're not sure that Jesus is God, obviously. You don't believe that, obviously. But if that was true, do you think...
I would think it's a little... I'm going to use a bad word. I think it's a little fucked up the way that it came about.
Okay.
That's another thing. Being away from Christianity and then looking back in on it, having come up with ideas outside of it, the fact that we're kind of all jazzed up about drinking someone's blood and eating their body seems a little wacky to me. Yeah. Also, it's okay, God created a world, but he created a world that kind of it's got a bunch of sucky things in it, but then he created something that's part of himself to come save it, and then he killed that. It just seems kind of weird logic to me, and also kind of archaic and It sounds like a little gaudy. The word doesn't really fit right here, but like just like, I don't know, some goth teenager would come up with. It's like, we're gonna kill him on a cross and stab him.
Sure.
And
I think I'll say something I want to say. You can say you can respond to that, and then we can start to kind of close.
Yeah.
I would say the way that the Bible lays out justice is the reason for the way it's framed, right? Mm-hmm. So God did create everything. I mean, probably all know a lot of what I'm going to say here. God did create everything perfectly, but then as soon as humans entered in the picture and decided to rebel against God, they rejected that perfection, right? Okay, and then chaos entered in the cosmos, so on and so forth. And then, of course, we get the rescue plan from Genesis 3 to the Gospels, where we see God rescue humanity.
Yep.
And he gives us thousands and thousands of years as a human species to try and prove ourselves, and we never can.
Yeah.
And then we get to Jesus, his rescue plan for humanity. He does save us. And the reason I say it displays justice well is because, and again, these are things you probably know, but like the reason that God did kill his son was for the ultimate sacrifice, so that we didn't have to be the sacrifice. Right? Yeah. And that, you understand that part, right?
Kind of. I don't understand.
You don't understand the why, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it shows that for evil to exist and for evil to be defeated, there has to be a response to evil.
I get it on the sense of like, if there are these huge positives and negatives, like good and evil, like if those things were real, then like the ultimate, well, I mean, I don't know, I say it's killing the most valuable thing, does seem to be like scaling up, like what's the craziest thing you can do? It's like, okay, let's have the best thing and let's sacrifice the best thing. You know? Like I kind of understand that. It doesn't really make sense to me why that would be like the way that they would have to equalize or something.
Sure.
That's another, this might get us on a little tangent here, but like,
you're good.
I don't understand why heaven would be good. I also don't understand why we would want everything to be perfect.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because like it doesn't work. Like if everything's positive, there's like no room for like experience.
Sure there is. And it's just in a way that we can't understand it. Because if God is infinite forever, for all of he's beyond time and space and comprehension, then we can exist in his everlasting glory and explore that and create things and worship him in the process forever.
But why would there be any motivation to do anything? Like without positive and negative, there's no reason for any movement in like the whole universe. Like there has to be a push and a pull for any like action to even be able to be like to exist, to even have an option to have an action. And if everything's kind of like positive, if it's all good, it's like, why would I have like all motivation like from you kind of comes from there kind of being this dichotomy between like there's like something better and there's kind of something worse. It's like between the two things, it's like the dance between the positive and the negative is like everything. Even when you get like subatomic particles, that's where everything's like in this positive and negative. So if everything was positive and everything was like good, it's like it just doesn't make sense to me, if that makes sense.
It doesn't make any sense to have zero negativity and zero imperfection because there's nothing to get better from, is kind of the idea.
Well, there just wouldn't be.
There's
anything.
No growing. Yeah, there's no
like
okay.
they're like without like kind of opposites. Like there's kind of no. There's no space. It's like if I say like a point, right? There's no place to move on like a mathematical point, right? It's like it's like nothing wide, nothing, but if I give you a line, there's a place to move on the line between those 2 points, between like let's say good and evil.
Yeah.
There's a place to move between those two. But if we just delete the evil, then there's just this so there's nothing to even say that is good now.
Sure. Well, and I think that's when you step outside of time in our comprehension of reality. Yeah. I think that's God's ideal. Is there is no evil because evil is a lack of God's presence.
Yeah. See, then I think it just gets a little too fringe philosophical for me, I think.
Sure.
It's just like, it's like we're in fairy tale land.
Sure.
For me, you know, but yeah.
That was good, man. I loved our conversation.
Did you like that?
Yeah. What's one thing I try to do with all of my guests, which there's really only been one that's been actively on social media, but is give you a chance to promote your socials. Like if you care about growing your Instagram or anything. So where can we find you on social media?
I think it's Jade Edwards.
Cool.
Just my photography and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, and I didn't mention. I think it did. I'm trying to get better at introducing my guests. You're a photographer. You do woodworking stuff. You're an engineer.
Well, not really. A fake engineer.
Okay. You went to engineering school, which is more than I've ever done.
Well, no. I mean, I went to drafting and machining school.
You're smart. Is the point?
No. Anybody can do that.
You're on. He's on. No. You're working on your second degree. You're a very accomplished person. For how old are you? 23.
24 now.
24. Yep. That's crazy, man. Yeah, good for you. That's cool. Yeah, you pretty much use photography on Instagram, right?
Yep. I had it for a little while.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I don't like this. And then I deleted it for like 3 years. And then I was like, you know what? I just want a place to post my photos. I want to show people my photos.
Totally,
so
yeah.
I just post photos on there.
I have it now because I want to do this and I want to do this well.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the public square.
Yeah.
But not this. Instagram and Twitter and YouTube, it's the public square now, unfortunately. Yeah. But it's so addicting, bro.
Yeah, like, it is. I know.
It's like constantly just... I want to see what people. Yeah.
But no, it's like even like I was away from it for like I think I didn't have it for two or 3 years. I didn't have it, and then like I got back on it, and like slowly I could feel it just creeping back a little bit. Of like, oh, I want to see how many likes I just got on that new photo. You know.
Yeah, it's fun.
But I do like it. It's like okay.
Yeah.
I'm making art, and it's like it doesn't do anything if I can't like give it. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. If you can't show it in the public square, if we're using that analogy, then what's the point?
Yeah,
exactly.
You got to go for a circle on it. So,
well, thanks for having a conversation with me. That was a good time.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
Close us in prayer. No, I'm just kidding.
What?
I'm just kidding. I was making a joke because with my Christian guests, sometimes they close us in prayer. Okay. I don't know what else I want to say. Yeah. Anything else you want to close on? Anything else you want to say?
I'm all good.
Okay, cool.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I deprived this poor man of food. I was like, let's get coffee at 12. And let's not eat for however long it's been. It's almost 5. I'm sorry, dude. I don't eat lunch normally, so it's a little easier for me.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Not really. It just depends. Like sometimes I eat it. If I'm going out for lunch, I'll eat it. But like a lot of times I just do like a bigger breakfast and then a bigger dinner, and then I'm good.
This is the beginning of me starting my cut, right? Once I'm stopping, but usually like 4 times a day.
Yeah, we didn't even touch on. Wow, that's a lot. Wow.
Yeah.
But you're trying to like gain weight too, aren't you?
I was, yeah. Now I'm going to start to go down.
Oh, now that you're cutting, I see. Yeah. We didn't even touch on like fitness and stuff too, which I know you're kind of big into. Anyway, all right, next time we'll have to do a Jade Edwards part 2. But okay, bye everybody. Thank you.
You were outside, I was out cold. Through the skylight, where did I go? I don't wanna know who's on your mind list. I'll just hold you, but I get in my head now when you fill it up. And I've been terrified of feeling love, but if you tried to, I would try to. I know I'm not who you thought you were drawn to.